Hi YouTube, this is Darkon633, and today is the first of my Blast from the Past reviews of the month of August. And the month of August, I will be covering Transformers Armada, one of the largest Transformers series that actually was a big influence on my childhood. Now, I'm actually starting with one of my most favorite Autobot cars from the entire line, and that's actually Hot Shot. Now, I understand that Armada Hot Shot may not be the best figure to a lot of people, and it's understandable that the figure itself may not be up to standard, since it does highly revolve around a gimmick, which sadly was scrapped on the American release, since the Japanese release actually came with the Star Saber, or at least a modified version of the Star Saber from correctly, that wasn't able to split into the 3 individual Minicons, and by doing so now he's just got giant hands with no gimmick. In the Japanese release, if I remember correctly, he actually had a light-up gimmick where I think the light actually went through the sword and did the whole gimmick like that. He does retain some of the gimmicks, obviously, mainly revolving around his Minicon partner. But other than that, that's pretty much it. And as my light's kind of flickering around, which I'm trying to get it to work. Anyways, we'll now be going on to the figure itself. Now, articulation-wise, you aren't going to expect a whole lot. This is from Armada, where even though they were quite accurate to the TV show counterparts, articulation wasn't the best, but it was kind of decent depending on the figure. His shoulders kind of do this movement outwards and inwards, but it doesn't have another joint in there. The only other joint it can kind of do is the elbows, and it can swivel up here. But the problem is, by the way his arm is designed, it is kind of awkward to have that point of articulation. He obviously doesn't have any waist articulation or head articulation, but he does have this gimmick with the visor, which we'll get to in a minute what that's for. His legs are on ball joints, which allow full movement, and he does have another ball joint here, and his feet can kind of pivot, but not really, because it's spring-loaded due to the other gimmicks. So as you can see, Armada alone had a lot of highly gimmick figures. Before we go to Hot Shot, its transformation and other gimmicks, we'll now be looking at his Minicon Jolt. Now, Jolt does turn into this little tiny red helicopter, and I do enjoy that Armada actually had a lot of these tiny little robots which remind me of Micromasters and so on. Pretty much the only gimmick this figure alone has is the spinning helicopter and what's actually used for both Hot Shot's robot and vehicle modes. Now, to transform Jolt, it's really simple. All you gotta do is pull down this piece, then you're gonna move the arms out of the way, and then you're gonna go inside here, and then pull out his feet, and then it separates. Sometimes it gets stuck. After all these years, I haven't touched it much. And there you have Jolt in his robot mode. Now, being a small Minicon, you're not going to expect a whole lot of articulation. His arms do form all the way around, but it does get hindered by the helicopter piece. His legs kind of have movements, but it can really only go forwards and backwards. So even though it's actually on a ball joint, as you can see, there isn't a whole lot of movement you can get there. He does have knee articulation, which is pretty useless by the way that it's designed. And that's it for Jolt. Because of the gimmick, we're actually going to transform him back into vehicle mode, so we're just going to quickly go through there. And once you get everything aligned, which can be kind of tricky if you don't plug it in forward like this first, and then you're just going to turn him into vehicle mode for now. So there you go. We're going to move him out to the side. And now we're going to go back to Hot Shot himself. The other gimmick he technically has is the gun. Now, in the show, he was able to hold onto this in his hand, but unfortunately, by the way of design alone, since these pegs aren't the right size or anything, unfortunately, as you can see, he can't hold it like normal. And technically, the only way you can really make him hold on to it is from pegging onto the shoulder there, or for some ways, you can actually plug it in to his chest component as well, which I haven't ever actually really done since, let's see, actually I think you need to peg it in backwards. So yeah, there you go. And as you can see, it doesn't really peg in very well either, so there isn't a whole lot you can expect from that piece. Now, the other gimmick he has is from the Minicon Jolt. First, you're going to pull down the visor, and then, in a very unfortunate placement, you're going to actually plug this in here. That'll make it work. There you go. And then, which is once again in a very unfortunate placement. You pull it again, and then what's going to do is that it's going to turn, and then you press it down and the missile will fire, which is clever, actually a part of the inside the actual wheel. But we're just going to take off Jolt now, push back in the missile. If the figure would cooperate with it, there we go. And we're just going to plug this back into his body. And that's pretty much it for the main gimmick in robot mode. Now, to transform it is actually a really simple step. I like to actually hide the head so that it won't be in the way. It'll be hidden because of the way that the pieces attach, and for some reason the missile's starting to go in berserk now. And now what you're going to do next, if the camera would focus, is you're going to turn these around all the way, so it looks like this. We're going to turn the legs around like so, plug these back in, then we're going to peg the top of the car into the pegs here in the front, if it can cooperate with me there. And then we're going to plug these down. Like so. Then we're going to close the doors. And there you have Hot Shot back in his vehicle mode. And let's see, hopefully the missile will not fire on me. I'm just going to plug it back in. Good, it looks like it's staying. That's good. And there we have Hot Shot in his vehicle mode. Now, as you can see here on this side, it does have the red piece there. It's also in there. Here you also have the red piece, which is the missile, but this side, they kind of hit inside the wheel, like so. It's very cool design, but obviously this side will not be so accurate since this is the end of the missile, and for some reason it is firing non-stop. I'm just gonna remove it then. He does roll on 4 wheels, which work okay, but sometimes it doesn't land very well. But once it does land together properly, it does roll pretty nicely, so that's good. He does have another gimmick by means of the Minicon, but this one won't activate any features. What happens is that even on the show, Jolt would attach to the back of his vehicle mode. He would kind of have some kind of speed form, where this would allow him to go much faster. It isn't the most elaborate gimmick out there, but at least it's just an option where you can display him in vehicle mode. And then, the other gimmick it has is that when you plug in this on the top of the front of the vehicle, it's going to be some kind of, forgot exactly what kind of design the cars have with this. It's like a muscle car. And then when you press it down, it'll actually spring the feet. And then you have some kind of like, well, if I remember correctly, in the comics that came with the toys, it was kind of like some kind of snowplow kind of thing, if I remember correctly. It's kind of a strange little gimmick, but it's cool that he does have a little bit more play value in vehicle mode. Now what we're going to do to transfer back into robot mode, which I think is a lot more simple than to actually transfer it into vehicle mode, we're going to disconnect this, which is actually stuck right now for some reason. It's quite stuck into there. We're actually going to push these out because they're actually a part of the robot mode. We're going to open up the doors, slide these over. We're going to open up this piece here first, and then, if it can cooperate, for some reason it's being a little of a pain with me today. And the old age really hit this toy pretty hard. And then we're going to turn these around. Like so. Turn the feet around. And then reveal the head. And there you have Hot Shot back in his robot mode. Now, as I stated earlier, Hot Shot might not be the most impressive of figures because He is hindered quite a bit due to the lot of gimmicks that he has, but overall, I still think this toy is a pretty decent figure, and being a childhood favorite toy of mine, I'm really happy of still owning this figure after all these years. Now, I know there is a Universe one, which I never actually saw in stores, and I most likely would have picked it up if I did. I know it was available in online stores, but at the time I just didn't really care for that design way too much, since for what I've seen in photos and some reviews, it really wasn't all that more impressive compared to this one, so that's unfortunate that they couldn't fix the engineering of the figure and make it better, but there isn't much you can do there. Overall, I still think Hot Shot is definitely a really awesome figure, and while it might not be up to standards for most people, I still think it's a pretty decent figure. Anyways, please comment or subscribe, and check me out on Hirotaku, where we'll get a post about the latest in hero news, because we're with heroes. Also, please check out my Twitter, Darkon633, and check out the channels down below. And don't forget to check out the WRW podcast linked in the YouTube link down below. And I'll be back next week for yet another Armada review. I'll see you YouTube. Bye.